We alive right now, man. It's going down, excited for the season. You know, we coming off a playoff win. I mean, you know, we had a couple wins.
At least pride-wise, made me feel good because you don't ever want to get swept.
And I've never done this. I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
If you ask me, can the Bucks win Game 5? I'd put it at
100%
confidence. Yes.
I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
At this point, we don't know what's going to happen. You can get Game 6. You can steal it.
I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
Winning Game 6 and 7?
I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
I don't think they're going to win the whole series, but
I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
Hello, and welcome to Diaries, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast presented by us, the staff of Brewhoop. My name is Riley Feldman, here for a final capper episode on the 2024-2025 Milwaukee Bucks season. Now that the playoffs are over for Milwaukee, unfortunately, after getting gentlemen swept by the Pacers, and there's nobody else I would like to break down the season of misery that just concluded than these two guys with me tonight. We'll start with you, Kyle Carr. Kyle, how are you doing this evening?
I'm all right. It's been a couple of weeks. I've been able to calm down. I've done a lot of taking the kids to swimming lessons, so I am now at a better place with this team than I was a couple weeks ago.
Good. We're still on Doc Wash, but we'll get to that in
Absolutely.
a minute. Yeah, we're also joined by Brewhoop's Boomer, and I mean that in the sense geographically, not age group. It's Jack Jahurin. Jack, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing better than I was. As you guys know, we just came off the Celtics-Knicks game, so I've been enjoying some various hate watches along the way, which has been exciting. But it would have been better if the Bucks were still playing. But yeah, not too bad.
Good. Let's just go right in. So there's a couple of things I want to accomplish on this podcast. I want to put one final bow on the first round playoff exit. Yet another first-round playoff exit for the Bucks, and then put a couple of final bows on the season that concluded. Let's start with the series. I know we've calmed down. We're feeling better, not in terms of the outlook of the team, but we're less despairing than we were probably in the exact moment once the series ended. When Game 5 finishes with the travesty of the overtime debacle that it was, what was your reaction? What was the feeling at the moment? I salute Jackson and Morgan for coming on and doing a pretty good job coherently breaking down what happened, but let's just go through emotions of the first round series that concluded. How were we feeling in the moment?
God. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Just watching it all happen, I was like, okay, cool. Up 7, 40 seconds. I feel it feels good. I'm not saying the game was over, but I feel good about it. And then, you have a little turnover, whatever. And it's just the manner in which they lost and the fact that it was Tyrese Halliburton hitting the game winner. And it was just everything that went up to it. I was like, you idiots. You morons. How do you let this happen? And it was just pure anger and annoyance. And then I was like, whatever. I'm done with this team. It's fine. Then I had to write the extended recap the next morning. And then I got pissed off. And I was like, I'm now mad all over again. And now I've actually been in a place where I got my initial fury out of the way, and now I'm just simmering, and I actually have a clear head. And it was just an embarrassment, honestly. This whole series was just a confounding list of embarrassing moments over and over. And, I mean, the better team won the series. Like, yes, Indiana would have won the series regardless if the Bucks won Game 5, but it was just the manner in which how much better the Pacers were than the Bucks that was dispiriting. Because I thought, okay, you have Giannis. Giannis could do enough legwork. And I guess the answer is no, he cannot.
It had shades of the intro that we have, thanks courtesy to Adam Paris, where he remixed your take from the bubble saying 100% confidence on Game 5. You can steal Game 6, and you're not saying that they're going to win the whole series. And then the Bucks did you a solid, and they just ended up losing the series in Game 5 anyways. Jack, anything to add in terms of your emotions, thoughts, and the immediate aftermath of the series?
Yeah, when the game was over, it was just like shock for a good 10 minutes. Like Kyle said, it was like 40 seconds left, up 7. It's like, okay, a lot of stuff would have to go wrong here for the Bucks to lose. Like mathematically, they should be home, and like especially like, and then it's like AJ Green misses the free throw, which like of course like the best shooter on the team misses the free throw, and then they're just like Andrew Nemhard pulls up for like a logo three, hits it. Not to rehash, Jackson did a good job of rehashing the sequence, but it's just like, and then it's just like the literally an NBA player dropping a ball between their legs and it rolling out of bounds, and you could see the car crash coming from a mile away. You're like, they're gonna lose this, and they lost it, and it was just like pure shock and then annoyance. And I had like work earlier that like in Australia the game started at like 8:30 over here a.m. or whatever. So I had work, and then I had I finished that, and then so I was like not looking at any social media or whatever because I didn't want to know what happened, muting all social media group chats, etc. And yeah, so then I went on social. I hopped on Twitter, and it was just like, oh god, there is an absolute tire fire going on here. Halliburton's dad is like threatening to like hurt himself getting in Giannis's way, and it's just like all this. Oh god, it was an absolute tire fire.
There's something about these teams meeting in the playoffs that results in a complete meltdown from a lot of grown adults all the way around. For some reason, we had the old Pat Bev throwing the ball at the fan last year. We had Tyrese Halliburton's dad getting after Giannis for some reason. Then Giannis going into the hug with was it Naismith or name? I don't remember who it was.
Mathurin, I think.
Mathurin.
Yeah.
Then they get in a fight. It's like, okay, so very good. What a high note to end things on. My feeling in the immediate aftermath was, thank God I'm out here getting my ass handed to me in rec league volleyball, so I don't have to watch this game. That's what. By the time we finished and I opened up the phone, I said, okay. That I looked up at my wife and said they lost by a point in overtime. And I went into the chat and said, okay, I don't think I'll be rewatching that game. So I was actually spared a lot of the vitriol, although my heart goes out to you guys for having to deal with it in the moment, which is not pretty, especially when they give you a little bit of hope, which is obviously the worst part of it all. Here's the exercise I want to ask you guys. So before we get into season stuff, this is not unique to me, but obviously the playoffs can be like a proving ground for guys, and it's not necessarily what you do now is always indicative of what you'll do in the future. But let's just go real quick through the players that Doc Rivers decided to play, especially when he went to a different starting lineup in Game 5. And just, I'll say the name and you say good series, bad, indifferent, bad, like a stock up, stock down kind of thing, just because I think it'll be helpful for guiding our discussion about where the team goes. So we'll start here. Obvious one. Giannis. Good series.
Good series.
As expected. Gary Trent Jr. fucked up at the very end, 100%. However, good series.
Yeah, good series. You'd have to say, right?
It's like on the low end of good series because he still had Game 3. Like Game 3 Game 3 and most of Game 5 I'll say good series, but it's like
part of me with him is like, though, it's like he has to be fed if he gets open threes, they should go in, but someone has to sort of get him the open threes, which I don't think the Bucks did a terrific job of in 3 out of the 5 games. Sorry.
Yeah. They pushed him a little bit further forward and part of that was based off of Dame status as well. So it's just kind of making do with what you can. But I would say relative to my expectations, good series. I mean, he had the second highest minute load of anybody, and he had to defend out there. The team defense sucked, but that's not all on him. Bobby Portis.
Struggling to remember what really Bobby did.
Yeah, game 4.
He wasn't bad.
Game 4 that they lost, but
so wait, the good series, okay, and bad series, you said?
Yes, yeah, kind of stock up, stock down sort of thing.
Slight stock up. Bobby was okay. Like he was not. The Bucks had a lot of issues, but I would not look at Bobby as being a big factor of their problems.
Yeah, he was certainly better than fine.
Especially given how much he missed of the season, and they went at the very end to say, okay, Bobby, they finally made the switch to make him in the starting lineup and said, we'll just ride this. So maybe he could have had an even better series if the guy calling the X's and O's had made the switch earlier, but we'll get to that. Kevin Porter Jr.
Oh,
I'm gonna say
bad,
bad.
you'd have to say, right?
I'm gonna
Relative
say
to
bad.
expectations, yeah.
I
He
mean, the
struggled.
opening, what was it? Game 2 was horrid. Like he was just, he was like, no, so yeah, I think it was game 2. Yeah, he just kept on like he out of control in transition, doing like these, that elongated sort of Euro step little push shot that he does.
Mm-hmm.
He just kept on going to that shot, and like, yeah, he was definitely not a calming presence throughout the series. You'd have to say bad.
I'd say bad.
And that's both sort of like good news for the Bucks, but also bad news for the Bucks, because that makes it slightly more likely you might be able to keep him, but also you're like, okay, that was not the outing that you were hoping for his first time in the playoffs. Just a couple more guys. AJ Green.
Good series.
Good series.
I'll give Dame a mulligan because of the injury, but and also
he was bad. He was bad in the games he played, but
he was bad, but yeah, it's a strange situation. I'm going to give a mulligan there. Kyle Kuzma. Okay. Brooke Lopez. Brooke Lopez.
Bad series.
Oh, bad. Yeah.
Okay. 2 more guys. Torian Prince.
Bad series.
Bad.
And Jericho Sims.
Good series.
Good series, yeah.
So that was what? 1, 2, 3. So that's 4 guys. Jericho Sims barely played relative to the other guys. So that's 3 guys out of the rotation who we deemed as having good series. And Bobby was sort of like a begrudging, and Gary Trent was also sort of a begrudging. And they are role players, so that has, there is a little bit of a reason for that. But just kind of run through. Makes sense the team lost a lot of bad series from a lot of guys, pushed in different roles that we may not have expected going in. I think the Kuzma thing, horrible, obviously. I mean, I think of his game 4. I was like, okay, like they got to throw a punch here. They got to throw a punch to do something in the second half. And then he immediately blows like those 3 layups at home. And I was like, okay, you got to pull Kuzma. I mean, you can't have him on the floor. And when you have somebody who's starting that you get there and say, okay, if you literally cannot play him at all. That's just a bad situation. So in terms of like stock up, stock down, Giannis, obviously good. Everybody else, sort of a mixed bag, I'd say, which is going to be interesting going into this offseason. Was there any, like, I don't know, I was going to say any like takeaways from the series in terms of going forward? Did anything from this series radically change your opinion about any of these players and their inclusion in the team, or how you build around them, or how you incorporate them heading forward? Again, accepting the fact that Dame is not going to be available for a long time, and we don't know the status of these guys with the offseason coming up here. But was there anything here where you're like, oh, this really changed my opinion about this guy, good, bad, or otherwise?
I wouldn't say it really changed my opinion. If anything, it like reinforced it. Like it reinforced that, okay, the Bucks do need to move on past Brooke Lopez. They need to move on past Bobby Porter. Like there's a lot of these guys that it's like we just have to move on from them. And I was like, Kyle Kuzma was an obvious. Brooke, Bobby, Pat. Like you look at half this roster and you're like, you all can go. Like I don't feel like there's maybe like two players where it's like you got to keep them, in Giannis and AJ Green. Then there's someone like Jericho Sims where it's like you may as well keep them because there might be something there. And then Gary Trent Jr., it's like if you can make it work cap-wise, great. But also I understand it probably won't work out. And then it's kind of like Ryan Rollins is sure there might be a role for him. It just felt like it just more reinforced of, yeah, you just got to completely hit the reset button and try and rebuild.
Yeah, the point about Brooke Lopez is like, I think for a long time there we were all like, all right, like Brooke is pretty old, but he keeps doing Brooke Lopez things, like, and the stats told us that he was valuable. I believe even last season, not necessarily like against certain matchups, but on the whole, like the stats told you how valuable he was, and I I'm not sure what they were this season. They might have been the same, but it was jarring against like a matchup like this, and these sort of stretch bigs are becoming more prevalent in the league, and it's just like, oh, he can't play against teams like this. Like he just, like, the minutes that they had him on the court were like death. Like they were getting destroyed in those minutes. AJ Green, I mean, he had a bad playoffs last year. He was awesome. I mean, I think that's a feather in his cap, certainly, in the Bucks cap. I mean, certainly, like in that game 5, when they finally started a lineup that made sense, and he was, like, he's coming off handoffs and just no dribble, just straight into a three, like off handoffs. So you could tell the confidence level had just risen, and he could tell, like, all right, like someone's got to shoot the ball. It might as well be me. So, yeah, that was sort of my main two guys there. And then Kuzma is obviously, like, the trade didn't make sense. Like, it didn't make logical sense when it was made, and that just came true in this series. Like, he was horrible. He couldn't be on the court, and that is not a good sign for a guy making $20 million, or you can't put him on the court in a playoff series.
The Kuzma thing was all predicated upon, okay, we have Damian Giannis. Maybe we're not going to win a title this year, but if we can get to the second round and Kuz doesn't F up too bad, or maybe we can recoup value. And then Dame gets injured, Kuzma is unplayable, and now, yes, we're in a mess. I agree with that. On Brook Lopez, Adam, I am so sorry. And you will be back on the podcast to defend your guy before free agency and everything hits, but either Brooks got to go or he's got to be willing to take a minimum. And if he has any sort of free agent market, I think you got to let him go. You say thank you so much for the years of service, but the truth of the matter is he probably still has it in him to get regular season minutes. He played an F load of minutes this past season, so he can probably still manage that. But when it comes to matchups in the playoffs, there's pretty much, I'm trying to think of teams who he'd be a good matchup against. And it's the Sixers in theory against Embiid. And who else? In a league where there are more and more quick guards, there are more and more stretch bigs, there are more and more difficulties playing really good perimeter defense regardless of who you're facing. And we're unfortunately meeting that point right now where Brook needs more help from his perimeter defenders, and the Bucks perimeter defensive units continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse as the seasons go along. And so I think you can keep him if he's willing to take a minimum. I wouldn't give him another 2-year, $50 million deal. I certainly wouldn't be doing that. And if he expects that, then unfortunately, I think you gotta have to let him go. So, it's been great for what it was, and I think he can still log a lot of minutes in the regular season, which is great. But whoever's coaching has to be willing to make the move right away. Make the move away from him right away, I should say. Other thing that I would note, I don't know if my opinion massively changed on any of these guys. All that really changed was when Dame got injured, and I accepted that he was just going to be essentially a non-entity heading forward. We'll see what he returns as, but he's not in my plans strategically. You look at some of these guys and you squint, maybe we could play more up-tempo. Maybe there's a little something there. I think you could maybe get Kevin Porter Jr. back to have him either opt in or pay him a little bit less and say, oh, you're going to be the starting guard. So I guess disappointing that a lot of the guys fell short. I think AJ Green, you guys are right. He's I like the idea of let's just force a lot more shots his way. Like you were saying, Jack, about Gary Trent Jr., if we can get the guys around him in a system where it's we're just going to force a ton of shots to AJ Green, and he's either going to hit them or he won't, but we're going to make it happen each night. That's not a bad thing to have at all. And he's gotten better defensively as well. So and as far as that goes, when I look back at the series, I don't fully despair because I think we've learned a lot more and we've confirmed some things. And that's all to the good, even if the team ultimately did bow out after 5 games. Thoughts on Bobby Portis? So Brooke Lopez, I think most of the idea is either gone or come back at a minimum. Thoughts on Bobby? Because like when Brooke had the back surgery, Bobby was the other big that played with Giannis a ton, and they made it work more or less. It wasn't perfect, but they made it work. He's the real hinge point because Brooke, I'm like, okay, he's 38. At some point, he's just got to give up the ghost. But Bobby still has probably another 3 solid to like above average seasons left in him before he starts maybe taking a more of a slide. Like he's the tough guy to make a call on in terms of the big rotation, I think, right?
Kinda. I mean, like, I feel like with Bobby, you just let him go. You find a way to move on from him. Because again, in the postseason, it doesn't make sense. Like, yes, he was okay, but it was more of the bar was so low at this point that like Bobby did not do anything to actively harm Milwaukee, but it's not like he was significant. He was not helping them. This wasn't like Bobby in 2021 playoffs where in the Hawks series, he stepped up. In the Sun series, he had moments. It's not like the follow, like when Brooke had back surgery and he was able to step in. It just kind of feels like, okay, we know what you are. And it also helped that you had other players that were so much worse than you that we didn't go as hard on you as we probably would have otherwise. Like Kyle Kuzma and Brooke Lopez were so bad that Bobby looked good compared to them in terms of big rotation. So I think it's just another one where it's like running it back with the same group. It's like with Brooke. We appreciate it. If you want to come back on a cheaper deal, great. But there's no need to continue having him, and especially at the dollar amount that he probably would want.
Yeah, Bobby's agent's got to be jumping for joy right now. I mean, he's in a good position to. He's got the Bucks over a barrel, really. But like, yeah, weird one with Bobby. Like, if you'd asked me 1 year ago this question, I said, no, he's out. But this season, like, I feel like he strangely became like really important to the team and what they were doing. And like, I feel like if they do run it back like with Giannis, it feels like, I don't know, part of me feels like they're gonna have to just pay the piper with Bobby. At the same time, what Kyle said, like the ceiling of a Bobby Portis, if he's the starting, like Bobby Portis is a backup center, ideally in the NBA. That's what he is. He's an off the bench, spark plug sort of player. But I mean, if he's the starter, there's just a ceiling on what they're going to be, and you know, it's not going to be. They might make the playoffs, but like they're not getting out of the first round. So that's like there's just a ceiling on what the team would be with him, and unless they can find a better option, he might be the starting center. So I have no clue what's going to happen.
It's interesting with him because if you think about switching to him full time, I wonder what the rebounding numbers look like because he benefits so much from other guys also boxing out. He's, Brooke, that's Brooke's main thing. Like people will tell you over and over again, don't pay attention to Brooke's numbers per se. Just look at everybody else's around him. What's the rebound percentage when he's on the floor versus when he's not? Okay, Brooke's gone. What does that mean for Giannis and Bobby? Probably dips in both unless you are able to create a better system or like the guards around you are better rebounders, but that's really hard to do. And I gotta be honest, I don't forget how many games in the middle of the season I just wanted to kill Bobby because he was just horrible. He was important, Jack, in that we were giving him a lot of shots and he said, sure, I'll shoot us out of this game. Check this out. And then I won't play defense as well. So like you guys said, the fact that he had a decent series for him should not take our minds away from the fact that there were many times prior to him getting popped for that it was not a good season from Bobby. I was like, okay, it sucked that he got popped for that because that probably hurt him a little bit in terms of like the trade market, for example. So don't let Bobby's slightly good series obscure you from the fact that he was not amazing this season, although he's used to it here. Giannis is used to playing with him, so he'd had that going for him. Okay, enough prelude. Doc Rivers, as of this moment, what time is it? 9:34 p.m. Central Standard Time, Wednesday, May 7th. We are on Doc Watch. Kyle has the article written. He did all the tough work of SEO, image picking. He did the subtitle. He's got the super groups. The article is ready to rock and roll at a moment's notice. And yet, Doc is still the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. Thoughts? Who wants to go first on Doc?
I'll go.
Yeah, okay. Like
For
Kyle,
those
like
watching
Kyle
on
gather
YouTube,
himself.
Kyle's got his head in his hands. He's just, yeah, I don't know. When Doc was hired, you kind of like delude yourself into thinking, it's like that meme where it's like, it didn't work for everyone else, but maybe it'll be different for us. And it's like, nope, same thing, same like arrogance, sort of, just can't be pliant with what he's doing, and he's got these, like it just was so poetic that he started Torian Prince and played this dude like, I don't know, like 25 to 30 minutes a game throughout the entire regular season. Did not move. Torian was the rock in the starting lineup. Did not move off.
Not even Giannis is that good of job
Oh
security.
my god! Like this guy would not move off Torian Prince. Like he was the guy, and especially when it's just like it didn't really make sense when they got Kuzma. It's like, okay, obviously they have to move off Torian Prince now because he cannot play the 2. And it's like Doc's like, no, I'm playing Torian Prince the 2, come hell or high water. And then and then they're getting just destroyed in Torian Prince minutes all series long. And then in the literal last game of the year, he decides to play Torian Prince 4 minutes, and it's like. I would, and when they went off to that, what was it, a 13-0 run to start? It was almost more enraging than it was like gratifying because it just confirmed all the priors that everyone, like it just didn't make. Everyone's like, if you play like AJ Green or Trent in his spot, like this would make a lot more sense. Like you could just see it, but apparently for a guy who makes like what 10 million a year to coach this team, he cannot see the most obvious things. And I'm generally loath to like say like, oh, like, normal just like fans or whatever or analysts are better than NBA coaches and they know more. Like I'm generally going to err on the side of like, these guys know what they're doing, but this one is like, no, that never made sense. And it just like was so annoying when he finally, he played the guy 4 minutes. I couldn't believe it. So what do you think, Kyle?
I just don't. I was right.
I was going to say, when you said, "Oh, you convince yourself," Kyle called it out immediately. He said, "This is going to not go well."
I want apologies for people that said I was acting out wildly. I was right. This was a bad hire when it happened. It remained a bad hire, and it was a bad hire, and now we're back to square one again. And it's always funny because it's like, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't have fired Bud. No, firing Bud was the right decision at that point. Hiring Adrian Griffin was a mistake. Trying to fix said mistake of Adrian Griffin with Doc Rivers was another mistake. He is not fit to be a coach for a team that was aiming for championships. If you want to be Charlotte, sure, hire Doc Rivers. He can maybe get to respectable. If you want to be even like the Chicago Bulls and get out of play and maybe be a 6 seed, sure, hire Doc Rivers. But if you're trying to win titles, if you're trying to be a contender, it's not going to work with Doc Rivers. We have years and years, decades of evidence. We saw it in LA. We saw it in Philly. It didn't work. So why the hell, like Jack said, maybe it'll work for us. No, it was a dumb idea. Why did we have to wait until the back was against the wall in Game 5 to decide, let's stop playing Kyle Kuzma. Let's stop playing Brook Lopez. Why did it take that long? It was like all the obvious things were right there. There was no semblance of offense that was there. The defense, which was better than it was under Adrian Griffin, was still bad. The whole situation in the fourth in overtime, a competent coach would have somehow found a way to stop the bleeding. Why is AJ Green inbounding the ball? Why do you have one of your better shooters inbounding the ball? Why? Like, it's just stuff like that where you just go, why? Why do you do half the things? And it's It was just infuriating. I don't understand how he's not fired, because at this point, it's only going to get worse with Doc, with a worse team. And it's just baffling. Why was Andre Jackson Jr. completely frozen out, but we ride or die with Torian Prince at the 2, and we ride and die with Kyle Kuzma, and we ride and die with this whole defense that wasn't going to work. The offense had no semblance of competence. Why are we having a meeting at the end in goddamn March to figure out, hey, the offense kind of sucks? Why is that? Why is it taking until March to be like, oh yeah, let's get this thing turned around? It's just infuriating, because a lot of this could have been avoided, and he needs to be fired. They need to have a new coach, because next year is going to suck in terms of like what this team will do. So let's at least get someone different to bring in some better ideas, because I cannot watch this suffer ball anymore. That's what it is. It's suffer ball.
The team in terms of ratings for the playoffs, so that they had a 111.1 offensive rating, which is 9th out of 16 teams. They had a sterling 118 flat defensive rating, which is the second worst defense in the playoffs, second only to the Heat. The thing about Doc is, when he got here, my hope was we'll have a system in place. They never had a system in place. There have been, because it's not over yet until he gets fired, over his 1.5 seasons as head coach, there have been very few moments where I thought, oh, the offense looks like it has an idea what it's doing. And it was made so much more stark by the contrast between what the Bucks were doing, and again, with all the caveats of Dame injured, the talent is not as good, obviously, as the Pacers. But the way that the Pacers play versus what the Bucks play, hell, throw in like so many other teams, not name the Pacers. You can pick so many different teams. They have an idea what they want to do on offense. We don't know what we want to do on offense. We don't know. And that's unbelievable to say with Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo on the team, but that's the reality of it. So if, in my eyes, you are now treating Dame as he's on the team, but you are not building around him pretty much at all. You need to build something new around Giannis. And this next season, we're going to have to be taking our lumps. Like, there's just no getting around it. Like, if Giannis is willing to stick around and take the lumps, this is the not mini rebuild, but this is going to be what it's going to have to be for the next season. You start putting in place the coach who has the idea of, this is the personnel we're going to need, the personnel type, player types. We're going to be a hand behind the back because of Dame's contract, and we're probably not going to get a disabled player exception. So we have to start putting the blocks in place now for a season after that, where maybe you can have something a little more coherent. Doc's not that guy. I would be shocked if John Horst thinks that Doc Rivers is that guy. And I can't imagine the owners are afraid of paying Doc to F off. Like, I just don't think that's the issue. So what is the issue that keeps Doc here? Is it a Giannis relationship thing? I mean, at that point, it's like, do we have to get rid of Giannis just to save him from himself? For God's sake, it can't be that. But like, the only reason you keep Doc is Giannis says, "Hey, I'm out. It's been great, but and we're just gonna start sucking, and our future looks bleak for years." Okay, doesn't have Doc just run a crappy team, punish him for having signed that big of a contract, and make him play out the contract or wherever with us. Maybe they're negotiating to have him retire, have a little buyout or something, go take blue pills from strangers somewhere else on his free time. Like, so it's just like, between Doc and also the rest of the staff, like, who's in charge of the offense? Who's in charge of the defense? All these things. Who's like helping Doc sort out, make these calls on the personnel? I don't understand. It doesn't seem like they really understand. It starts with Doc, but I honestly, I mean, you got a clean house, right? In my opinion, that's 2 seasons now. We faced literally the exact same opponent in both playoffs. First one, whatever. We want to give them a little bit more leeway. Fine. Literally the exact same opponent, and they picked us apart. Like, outside of the Gary Trent Jr. game, they picked us apart for the most part. And that's just part of a reflection on where the talent is at, but also part of the reflection that I don't think the coaching staff is all that good. And I would be extremely upset if Doc Rivers is still the head coach of this team, even in a couple of weeks. Like, you got to start, if you're going to make a move to a new guy, you got to make it soon so you can start evaluating what's going to be the personnel moves. Because there's a lot of guys on this roster who are going to have to make decisions about contracts and everything. And you got to have somebody in place who's going to be able to guide you as to what kind of players you want. So, yeah, Doc's got to be gone, I think, in my opinion.
Well, and then the thing is, sure, you keep Doc, right? And if the Bucks start off with another 2-8 or they struggle again, you're going to fire him, and it's like, well, we just wasted all this time. And I think that's also the part of it. If the Bucks come out slow or the Bucks struggle and you decide to fire Doc like a month or 2 months into the season, then it's like, well, then what the hell were we do? Why the hell didn't you just do this before? Get a new coach in that could run this, like get a new system in, maybe get the right player personnel for that new coach. We just, again, it's just like you're wasting time. You just wasted God knows how much. And now that's for me, the bigger thing is there's no reason to keep him, because if you struggle and you fire him, then you could have just done this now and saved everyone a lot of time.
If you keep Doc past the summer, you're saying if we're not only keeping him this next season, we're going to keep, like, we believe in him for the season after that too. And that would be literally insane to say. Only crazy people would say that, because you're so right, Kyle. I think everybody can agree realistically this next season is not going to be amazing. Like, they might surprise a little bit, but just given the circumstance, not going to be amazing. So you burn half of it where you could just be like, this is free space experimentation with Doc, and then you can him and say, Joe Prunty, you're going to run this team for the next 40 games. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. Let's be adults about the situation. Like, if you keep Doc, it's like, well, we're going to keep him for 2 seasons then. What are we doing? Why are we doing that? I wouldn't understand.
Yeah, if Giannis is on the team, and this complicates things, because I saw a quote and someone shared it in our group chat of like, Giannis is like, oh, I love Doc. It's like, not now, Giannis, not now. we all know you love to be like the charming, like,
he loves everybody. Giannis loves everybody.
Yeah,
He'll get
Giannis,
over it.
The
He'll
person that Giannis is,
Right.
That's why we all will love him, but not now, Giannis. Okay. Yeah, if you keep Giannis, you have to move Doc, because obviously you have to find a new game plan with Dame out, and you saw I thought in the game 5 you had a bit of a blueprint of what the team could look like if Giannis is on the team, and it's sort of like Giannis is a point center. You have kind of a mosquito fleet of shooters setting inverted pick and rolls, and you get lots of threes up, and that's kind of like what it should look like. But you can't do that if like Torian Prince and Brook Lopez are sort of like playing, and obviously Kyle Kuzma is playing. But and then let's say they trade Giannis, he asks out, whatever it is. Then you're going into a rebuild phase, and absolutely you want to get rid of Doc in that situation. And Doc doesn't want to. Doc, when he was in Boston, the whole reason he went to the LA Clippers, right, was because they were entering a rebuild and he didn't want to be a part of it. So in either scenario, you want to get rid of Doc, and the sooner you do it, the better, right? So the other point I wanted to make is there was a story that I published this morning about the Bucks' clutch time offense. They had the 28th worst clutch time offense in
My God.
clutch time offense in the league. And a big contention I had with it was that it seems like Doc is kind of just like, it's kind of like what I would call like an old boys club. Like, all right, like I'm best friends with the star players, and my whole thing is just give them the ball and get out the way. And I'm going to pump them up at every opportunity, but I'm never going to actually call a play or do anything creative to make the clutch time offense and the fourth quarter offense improved, and maybe actually make the defense, play defense and think and do stuff. It's just like, all right, just give Dame the ball and he's going to do something awesome. And it's like, there's this arrogance to Doc and the way he coaches. And it's like the almost the lack of effort that he wants to put into actually coaching with creativity it's so infuriating to me. And like, it goes back to that, what I was talking about with the lineups and the persisting with the lineups, even though game after game we are getting killed with this lineup. You cannot play this lineup, but then the next game starts and there's the same freaking lineup. And yeah, I don't know. I'm getting agitated right now, and I was getting agitated writing this article. I had to I finished the article. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna actually make this a bit more PG because I maybe got a bit too far here, but like there is just this arrogance to Doc that is really off-putting.
Your original draft had in all caps at the end. Fuck.
Basically.
Said we're gonna have to dial that back a little bit.
There's just a lot of sarcasm in it, a lot of sarcasm that I had to dial back.
It's really, and when I did the offense article, I don't know, like early April, late March, whenever it was, and looking at the numbers, not just the clutch numbers, but just the shot diet in general, the way that they designed things, the kind of shots they were going for, none of it made sense. Every piece of it, you're like, why are you doing it like this? And I do think a large part of it is predicated on Dame. And it's not that the Dame experiment is over, because we're sure not going to find anybody to trade for him now. So he will come back at some point after the Achilles rehab and everything. And then we'll see on an expiring whether we trade him at that point or whatever. But I do think it is both a little bit of, it's a big condemnation of Doc, but also the difficulty that the team has had overall, regardless of who the coach is, in integrating Dame in a way that makes a lot of sense. And for some reason, Dame gets here, and I understand you're trying to get him integrated, but then we go away from the strengths of Giannis, and it just never clicked. Like the trade-off between those two things was not worthwhile. And so now you can hold out to Giannis and say, hey, Dame's not even going to be here. If you want to be point center guy, sure. We'll just build the entire system. If the word is Giannis loves having the ball in his hands, you know what? You're the greatest Buck of all time. You have the ball. I don't even care. Do whatever you want. Like, we'll design the system around you. And when Dame comes back, he's going to have to just make it work, I guess. Like, I don't know if you can realistically build. You're going to have to build something else around Giannis. And then do you even try to build it with Dame in mind to get him back in? I don't think so. But I think a lot of the issues are Doc, the way he coaches, and then also just the inherent problems that they have had making the Dame Giannis thing work in a way that's sustainable, replicable. I mean, the clutch offense struggled. I would have to go back to see the numbers from last season. Better. They had a couple of buzzer beaters, but I don't recall it being like.
It was ironically really good under Adrian Griffin.
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember that feeling way fluky. Like it felt like they were like beating the Washington Wizards, like at the buzzer, and you're like, oh, thank God they won.
But hey, they still had a much better clutch rating under Adrian Griffin, because Adrian Griffin was probably like, I have Giannis and Dame, they'll figure it out, and it seemed to have worked. I don't know.
And it's also disturbing because the defense in the clutch, like that 28th offense, was offset by the fact, that the defense in the clutch was like either first or second all season long.
It was first by 4 points. I checked. It was first by a mile, which, like, if that wasn't the case, their record would have been a lot worse, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing that they couldn't score at all, no matter what they did. And they didn't try a lot, to be honest. I don't, again, not many moments where I was like, wow, that was a really well thought up, constructed, and executed play. Never. Like almost never did I think that during the season, which sucks as a fan, because you want stuff like that to cling to. You say, okay, they're putting it together, and it really doesn't feel like they ever did. Okay. Other thoughts on the season, players, direction of the team, Giannis, if you want to talk about. The other thing that we haven't had a chance to talk about on this podcast, John Horst signs an extension. Thoughts about that? I was
why?
I was confused personally, but
I don't understand it. I don't. It doesn't make sense, because then everyone's like, oh, well, he'll get to choose like what he wants to do with the coach. Well, if he's keeping Doc Rivers, then he definitely should not keep his job. I'm sorry.
It's true. It's true. 100%.
Like if him getting the extension was predicated on I want to keep Doc Rivers as coach, and the ownership was like, sure, he should not have this job. He should not get this extension. If he gets to choose his coach, why has he not fired Doc Rivers yet? Again, I don't understand. And again, everyone talks about, oh yeah, John Horst makes these good moves. But sometimes John Horst makes these good moves because he made a really bad move beforehand. Yeah, you traded for Kevin Porter Jr. You drafted Marjon Beauchamp, which is why like you got yourself in this mess because of it. Or well, there's one like what was it? I'm trying to forget who he drafted. It was like, oh yeah, turn DJ Wilson into like
DJ Wilson over OG Anunoby.
Right. It's like, well, you drafted DJ Wilson. You're lucky that you got bailed out with PJ Tucker working out, but like you got out of this because you made a bad draft pick. You made a bad decision with Semi Ojeleye and Rodney Hood, and because of that, you had to package Dante to get rid of. It's like a lot of the good moves Horst makes is because he made a bad move beforehand, and I feel like we just kind of gloss over that.
Yeah, and you often have to package that with an asset to get off said bad move, like you're saying, Kyle.
And it was fine at first when he was more or less cleaning up John Hammond's like bad contracts that he gave out. More specifically, like Delly and like
Tony Snell.
It felt like, yeah, it was like there were definitely moves that like were not his control that he had to dig the team out of, and I understood that. But he did make a lot of bad moves and has not drafted well at all.
The thing that makes me nervous is that the pattern with Horst, and sort of understandably, although maybe a bit too far for my taste, is when in doubt, throw a load of draft picks at it. Yep. And they don't have a lot of draft assets, obviously. And part of the reason to get under the second apron was to free up a little bit more flexibility in that department in particular. Is yes, you can make some contract options easier, but it also opens up the time horizon on which you can trade picks. And I don't want the team to make the mistake of this next season of trying to accelerate a timeline for some reason. I hope when they have this conversation, John Horst gets his contract. Hopefully Giannis is happy with that. I'm sure it's fine or whatever. That they get together and say, hey, you know what? This next season, it's going to be maybe like a lot of marginal moves. Again, we're trying to set up for what the next, like take a season off from throwing a ton of picks at something just to get whoever the name guy is, unless you are so convinced that he is going to be the guy. And he also fits the age profile as well, because you can't bring in another guy at the Dame level. I know Giannis's timeline continues to shorten a little bit, but you can afford to bring in a guy who's in his 20s, in his mid to late 20s, maybe. That would be, if you're going to go all in draft assets for somebody like that. I don't know who it is. I just get nervous because that's been the MO of you make the splashy trade, you throw a lot of draft assets at it. We have more draft assets now that we're moving forward into the season. We're under the second apron. I just don't trust that because I don't want them to make that mistake this season. You want to make that mistake next season? Okay, fine. But I don't want them to make that mistake this season. I get nervous about that personally.
Yeah, you could do a whole podcast on the Drew Dame trade and why that felt like the right decision at the time, but why it ultimately probably ended up being the wrong decision. We don't have to get into that now, but like, yeah, I totally agree. Let's stop digging, guys. Let's just chill out for a second.
Take a breather.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yeah. You need to be clear-eyed about if there is a championship ceiling on the team, and if you determine that there is or is not, base your moves according to that. But don't keep digging a hole deeper and deeper with draft assets that other teams are going to be like hoping that they get like one of these draft picks because they know that like that could be like the number one pick down the years. Heck, the freaking Portland Trailblazers picks could be the number one pick right now. So yeah, you have to be clear-eyed about what the ceiling is for sure.
It's an interesting spot to be. I do feel relatively confident at his ability to identify guys outside of the organization that you can find in free agency or on the margins. I mean, he's had misses, Rodney Hood, Shemi Ojale being number 1A and 1B, the the twins of trouble. But he's had moments like the Gary Trent Jr.'s of the world. Torian Prince, for all his faults, I mean, okay, fine for like a minimum. At least we didn't trade 5 second-round picks for him. We didn't even get into that. Sorry, Kyle, for Jay Crowder.
You know, I thought that
You just reminded me.
Sorry.
I didn't think that needed to be mentioned.
Yeah.
I think we all know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I shouldn't have even said anything. So like with the right, if they come to the conclusion of, okay, we're just going to take a breather and figure out what the F is going on. You know, we're going to shut it down and figure out what's going on. I could feel, you could talk me around to that. But if it's like, oh, we're going to like figure out what's going on and we're going to win this season, say we're all stupid, I guess. Like apparently everybody from top to bottom of the organization is an idiot, which I can't bring myself to believe, but maybe they get marching orders. So we'll see, but figured we might as well mention that. I think he's been fine. If he had left, I'd say okay. If he's staying, I'm not thrilled, but it is what it is. Any other thoughts around the team season that concluded?
I will say, sorry, Kyle. I will say, I'll just make a quick point that the team, when you get to this life cycle of a team, it's the complete opposite for the young upstart teams such as the Indiana Pacers. I mean, you can see in sort of team building is you're so bare of assets that you're kind of like, all you can do is hire like one year mercenaries that are specialists. Like you have Torian, like you look at the Pacers, like all they do is bring in talent that they've drafted and they've developed in their system, and it's getting better each year. And you know, there's kind of multifaceted players and stuff like that. Whereas with a team like this, where you don't have assets to go and like you don't draft high and you don't really draft at all, is, you know, you're trying to like pigeonhole Torian Prince into a playmaking role, which is never going to work. You're trying to have Gary Trent be like a pseudo point guard. It's never going to work, you know? And so, you know, like the team doesn't have the infrastructure right now, nor probably does it going forward for you to confidently say that they're absolutely getting worse, but like how much better can they get when all you're getting is guys on minimums that want to run the next year for something more than a minimum. That's what minimum guys do. And so that was my one takeaway from this year, is just like you're trying to play guys in spots that they're not comfortable playing in, and you're going to pay for that.
I think my last thing is, honestly though, next year should potentially be a more enjoyable season, because for the first time since we went into Bud's first season, we're not expecting his team to be a contender. Like the expectations are lower, the bar is lowered. And I think that'll make things a little bit more digestible for like when things don't go great, instead of us thinking, all right, I don't know if this team's going to be able to compete with the Bostons and New Yorks and Clevelands. It's going to be, yeah, this is what we expect. You know, a 5 or a 6 seed probably is what we should. That's the ceiling, and the floor is playing like 9 or 10. And that's just where the Bucks are going to be. And maybe that'll just make things more enjoyable, because we're not looking at every decision and every game as an indictment of this is why this team can't contend, or this is what's going to get the team over the edge. It's going to be, maybe it'll be fun. Hopefully Doc Rivers is fired, so there'll be more optimism. So I will say next year, I feel like will be more enjoyable for fans, media, content, whatever, because for once the expectations won't be like title contender, championship, or bust.
I like that point, that the stakes aren't going to be that high, because they're not every time a Dame Giannis play doesn't work where they're like, oh my God. Or if it does work, we're like, okay, we're back. Like, it's just that yo-yoing is so tiring as a fan. Now, obviously, if Doc is back, then it'll be fun in a different way, and that will be hate watching, and we'll see how outlandish we can get on the podcast on a week-to-week basis as we lead the charge to get him fired. So sorry, Doc, if you were planning on coming on the podcast, but we'd understand if you choose not to.
I don't want
my final thought on the season is I don't think Giannis is going anywhere. I think He's in for the grind, I think. And I'm sorry, I don't know which podcast put this. It might have been actually Eric Name on Marcus Johnson's podcast, but the reality of competing in the NBA is that it's really hard for teams right now to put together dynasties, and you would rather see Giannis go in the mold of like a Steph Curry. Of course, they had a lot more success at their peak than the Bucks did, but you keep playing it out. You do not give up around your franchise icon, and you play it enough times, and hey, maybe it'll all come together again. You'll have another second chance at it and see where it goes from there. So I'm not worried about Giannis leaving. I'm worried about how much Giannis loves Doc Rivers, but Giannis also loved Jason Kidd, and we got that guy up out the paint when it was time. So I'm not too worried about that. Giannis loves everybody. That's what makes Giannis such a good person. So, and we'll see where it goes. A new coach, a new identity. Let Giannis ball out next season. Have him hunt Russell Westbrook style for a triple-double every single night. I'm in. Adam Silver can have my money for his crappy league pass service for yet another season. So that's all it takes for me. Okay. Well, beautiful takes, guys. I would switch over here, but I don't think I even have the banner ready. So I'm going to burn time and write this down for rapid fire questions. There we go. I will edit that out after the fact through the magic of iMovie and GarageBand. Here we go, guys. Let's start here. Bucks are out. There are, 8 teams left in the playoffs. You don't have to be rooting for any of them, but who would you be least mad about winning a title?
Minnesota,
then OKC.
I would say, if I wanted to game plan this out, if I think about the Giannis thing, you want the Knicks to win it so that Knicks fans don't get like, well, Giannis could get that out of the way so that they don't have their savior complex. So, plus also Knicks fans crack me up. I understand why people get frustrated with them, but they crack me up usually. And I like Cat a lot. So I would say the Knicks, although I hope all these teams lose. Okay. It's summer here, not summer, it's spring. Feels like summer around here in the Midwest. What season is it technically in Australia now? Fall?
It's heading into winter, yeah.
Okay. Let's say you're heading out on the patio, right? And this could be a restaurant, this could be in your backyard, wherever. What's your go-to patio food when the weather finally gets nice again? You look to whoever, you say, hey, we're going to a patio. Yes, no. They say yes. Where are you going? What kind of food are you going for in terms of patio food?
What do you got, Kyle?
nachos. Say a plate of nachos would be great.
See, when you said patio, I assume you meant like on the barbecue, and then Kyle's just like rattled me with the nacho take.
I'm thinking I'm sitting outside a restaurant. I'm sitting outside, like I'm outdoor seating.
Yeah, Kyle has somebody serving him beverages, and he drove to this place, and somebody else is waiting for him.
I really like a good quality sausage, or like a chicken patty type thing, I've never been a fan. I've never been a steak guy. But I like I don't know, some sausage with some herbs and stuff in there. I reckon that floats my boat.
Okay. That sounds good to me too. It's funny you said nachos, Kyle. We always go to a taco place by us, so that was also kind of top of mind. I asked because my wife told me days ahead of time, because of the forecast, that we were going to the local burger joint by us, and it was excellent, very good. The old fashions were flowing, and it was a good Sunday afternoon for me. So I'll say a burger. Keep it simple. Grilled stuff is usually pretty good. Let's say Doc Rivers, please God, make it happen, gets fired tomorrow. Any names of interest to you in terms of coaches out there? Let's say this first for me personally. Can't be Darvin Ham. Please not Darvin. Can't be Darvin. It can't be anybody
I have a
who's
list of
around the
coaches
team
I
right now.
don't want, as opposed to coaches I want. It's more like, here's who I don't want.
This is the tough question, because there's so many like assistants, guys who haven't had a real shot yet or whatever, that are known within league circles, but we don't have a freaking clue about. But is there any of like the retread guys, any of the recently fired guys that are of any interest to you at all?
I wouldn't oppose Frank Vogel.
Okay.
I feel like it would be a slightly better Doc option.
Yeah, I think Frank Vogel would be he's kind of Budenholzer-esque in his defensive philosophies. He's a defensive coach. So he would be okay. It's funny, like it's always that push and pull between you've got the kind of old hands who have done the rounds, but they have been fired. That's why they're available. And then you've got the mystery box of the young assistants that haven't proven themselves. Might be Joe Mazzulla's or they might be Adrian Griffin's. You don't know that. So, yeah, give me Frank Vogel.
I was gonna say
Like,
the
if
only
you
other
could lure Ty Lue away from the Clippers, I would absolutely do that.
Oh,
if
Ty
possible.
Lue. If the Clippers would be stupid to, he's like a top 3 coach in the league.
I don't think
Like,
the
he's
Clippers would
awesome.
fire him, but I'm saying
Yeah.
if you're the Bucks, you try and entice him. That would be my number one option. Try and find a way to get
Yeah, he's a
Lue or Eric
wizard.
Spoelstra out of their current situation. It won't happen.
all you have to do is convince Ty Lue to be like, hey, why don't you leave Los Angeles for Milwaukee? And also your owner who has more money than God himself and will give you as much money as you need. Come kick it with us. Giannis is cool.
While
Ty
we're
Lue,
paying
obviously.
Doc and Adrian Griffin at the same time.
By the way, Doc is still an advisor. He will be getting calls from Doc because we had to give him the money somehow. So he will be he'll be calling in. The only other name that was sort of interesting is Taylor Jenkins, but I'm of the opinion that anybody who grew up in the Bud system, especially the Bud in Milwaukee system, is going to have a proclivity for Brook Lopez in particular. And I can't have my coach being like, yeah, let's match that contract for Brook. Just, I can't do it. So I would say out on him. Yeah, I guess Frank Vogel.
What do we think about what's the dude's name that used to coach Denver?
Mike Malone. If you
what
want
do
to
you think
drive Giannis out of town quicker, that'd be a good one.
I don't
See,
know.
it's difficult because Giannis gets along with most coaches. I think Giannis would get along with like a disciplinarian type, which is what Malone strikes me as, although I admit to not watching a lot of Nuggets basketball. But if like Mike Malone, I just want a coach who's going to drill the team so well that I watch them and say, I know what they're doing. So if Mike Malone can do that, and if you have to break a couple of eggs along the way, I'd probably be convinced. I don't. And also he'd be used to coaching a system around a big who's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Obviously Giannis and Jokic are very different in terms of the end product, but it's not the worst idea in the world, I don't think. Okay. Well, it'll probably still be Doc. So just get ready for that. Okay. So going from patio, you don't have to be on the patio for this, but it's late at night here. So what's your dessert of choice? You can grab any sort of dessert in the world. You know, the waiter
cheesecake.
Good ass cheesecake. Okay.
I like you know how you can get those microwave little sticky date puddings, chuck them in the microwave for 40 seconds and then put some ice cream on top of that. That bangs.
Hold on, wait. Why did you? They're what puddings?
Sticky date. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Sticky date pudding.
That's really good.
Okay. Is that an Australian thing, Kyle?
Google it. I don't know if it's an Australian thing. I'm pretty sure it's a world. Kyle, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about. That's what
date,
I'm like.
as in like the fruit, right? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sticky date. Interesting.
It might be a British thing. Honestly, it might be a British thing, which makes sense.
Any sort of like self-oozing sort of deal, you know?
Oh, this looks amazing. Hold on.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
It must be like a British. It must be like a British.
It is.
And there's like an accompanying sort of sauce that goes on top. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It's not just British. It's beloved British.
That makes sense if it's popular in Australia and obviously like in the Caribbean. So yeah, no, I absolutely. That is a great choice.
Oh, and I see it with the ice cream. All right, I'm back on board. Okay, I love it.
Hell yeah.
I would say, I would say tiramisu. I'm a sucker for tiramisu. I love whenever I get the reels on Instagram, like, oh, I couldn't eat another bite, and the waiter's like, we have tiramisu. It's like, hold on, come back here real quick. Kyle, are you doing New York cheesesteak? Or are you looking? What kind of toppings are you? Okay,
yeah, I would say in New York, maybe like a strawberry or like a passion fruit. like syrup or glaze on it, whatever. But probably just a New York cheesecake would be good.
Beautiful. Final question for you guys. I just talked about not accelerating the timeline. Is there any free agent or player that could be traded for that you would get? Don't think too hard about feasibility, but is there somebody out there that you're like, oh, I'd be excited. I think he would be a good add to the team. Any names out there we should keep an eye out for? Interesting.
Yeah,
Kyle says no.
That's like Kuzma's contract sort of deal, what you're looking at. But yes, the whole what is the ceiling next season puts a bit of a dampener on that sort of whole question. But yeah, you'd have to throw in one of those picks, which please do not do. But
yeah, Cam Johnson's the tall one, right? Thomas is the guard.
Cam Thomas is the little jitterbug, score 1 million points, never pass guy.
He said, "I'm getting my 50 shots up if it gets me." Cam Johnson, I like him in all the interviews that he does. He'd be interesting. Does he play defense? I don't think he does he? He
used to not. I believe he's improved. Like the whole reason, like you remember when the Suns went up? I believe it was 2-0 on the Mavericks, and then the Mavericks beat them in that series. I don't think it was last year. It might have been the year before, but
yeah, it was the 20.
He was really criticized for his defense in that series, but I believe he's gotten a lot better since then.
I think in the discussions around Brook Lopez, what do you do with him? What do you do with the big rotation? I don't know how it would work, but the Celtics are going to be running up against a lot of like the same second apron issues as well. I don't know what they would want from us, but like a Porzingis style guy, I think that'd be an interesting. Porzingis and Giannis might be an interesting stylistic choice to combine those guys and see kind of what you put together. So I don't know how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. He'd be in. The reason he's interesting is because Brook Lopez. I mean, we know he moves at a glacial pace, but he also shoots at a glacial pace. Whereas like Porzingis, he's like a grab it and shoot it type of big, which Giannis has never. I mean, Bobby Portis, I guess, but like that's on a much lower level. But like Porzingis is like catch shoot in one motion, like it's real simple. So he's like a really good theoretical fit with Giannis, I would say.
Yeah, it's like the same with Naz Reid, which you're never going to be able to pry him out of Minnesota. But Naz Reid, oh my God, the way that guy gets shots up, he doesn't jump. He literally stays planted on the floor and just boom, just every single time. It's amazing to watch. So I think maybe looking for some bigs. Obviously, if they let Brook Lopez go, you're going to have to find something else anyways. So that's where I'd be looking. And I'd be happy to see some reinforcements there. Final miscellaneous segment of this season. Sad that we're ending on a fountain pen segment, but that's what it is. This week, for the first time in a very, very long time, I have a new fountain pen. This is the Lamy Vista. As you guys will see, this is called a demonstrator pen because it is clear all the way through. You can see all the parts and you can see the ink reservoir in there in the middle. And this pen is special to me, not this one in particular, but when I did my first semester abroad in Germany, or I guess I should say it was an exchange trip, it was like a month. The family that I stayed with got me a Lamy Vista. And I had never had a fountain pen before. And I was like, what the hell is this? These crazy Germans. And I actually had not used it for like years after I got it. And then when I got to college and started writing in my own journal, I busted out the Lamy Vista that I had. I don't know where I misplaced it. So sorry to the German family if they're listening. But I was so inspired by how much I enjoyed working with it that I bought another one. It's very cheap. It's like $20 on whatever site you want to go to. And it's a great pen. It's very simple, very light in the hands, but not too light. And Lamy is one of the best producers out there. They do a great job. Both my Lamys are probably my favorite pens that I use on a day-to-day basis. So Lamy Vista, highly recommended. Skip the Safari. Go for the Vista. I know the Safari's got a lot of different cool colors and stuff like that, but the Vista's where it is at. So that's what I got there. And I think we're going to wrap it up there. Let's give one last hot take. Give me an off-season hot take. That's your predictions before I let you guys go for tonight. Anything.
Thank God the season's over.
Is that a hot take?
That's my final take. I don't even want to think about the offseason. I don't want to think about this team for like another month or two. Thank God the season's over.
Oh God, I don't know. I'll say they hire a first-time head coach.
They find
Maybe.
a way
I don't know.
to get
And they
Damian
get it
Lillard.
right. They get like the next Missoula. Like they get
Ooh.
a good one. I don't know.
That'd be great.
I'm gonna put that out into the ether, and let's all the good energies. Let's hope that happens.
I don't know how it happens, and I know it's not going to happen, but they find a way to get Dame up out of here. It's time. And it would need to take a team that really has no interest in winning, even the faintest hope of winning anytime soon. Let's go. We seem to have a good working relationship with the Wizards. They've already had us, they've had us in trades before. We might as well just send Dame there as well. They will find a way to get Dame up out of here, and people will be shocked, but frankly, in my opinion, it makes sense. And we'll end the season on that note. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Kyle. And thank you, everybody, throughout the season for listening, commenting, watching, wherever it is. Thanks to the entire Brewhoop staff for hopping on the podcast throughout the season with the help with the instant reaction stuff. It's been another fun season for us, not necessarily the Bucks, but we always enjoy doing this together. We appreciate everybody for listening. As usual, over at brewhoop.com, off-season coverage around Doc Watch, around free agency, around the draft. Bucks have pick 47. We're not going to do draft coverage on this podcast, but we'll do it after they pick the guy. So don't expect any sort of breakdowns for that on Dear Diaries. But you can watch us over on Brewhoop's YouTube page. Like, subscribe. If you like the podcast, send it to a friend. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you again very soon.